Greetings friends, old and new, Dragon here once again. If it is your first time stumbling onto my tiny little corner of the YouTubes, then do please consider clicking that red button. Okay, another Shaw Brothers review, another Arrow Shawscope Volume 1 box set review. This is disc number 4, or review disc D, The Mighty Peking Man. Easily the most contentious selection for the films that are included in the box set. This seemed to be for two reasons, from what I could see going through the forums. People were either really pissed off because of the choice of film, or they were pissed because they already had it. There was a version of this already available in the UK through 88 Films. Quite early on in the release schedule. This was spine number 6 from 88's Shaw Brothers Asia Collection series. But in both those cases, I think I'm going to try and see if I can argue for the film's inclusion, because I'm not really that bothered that it's on here, and it's on here in pretty spectacular fashion with a whole bunch of extras that are really quite a treat. So there's enough difference between the two releases that I'm absolutely fine with double dipping for this. It's a bonkers movie. If you have not seen it, just think Hong Kong's version of King Kong, as legally removed from the actual story of King Kong to allow them to still make it because they couldn't license the rights for King Kong, but it's still a pretty spectacular experience all in all. So made in 1977, directed by Ho Meng-Hua, who is easily one of the most prolific house directors at Shaw's. Did over 50 movies in his time there, and really had a pretty incredible career. He started off directing King Hu when King Hu was still an actor. Worked with Chang Cheh before Chang Cheh was a director. He directed a couple of scripts that Chang Cheh worked on early on in his career, and directed a stack of different type of movies for Shaw's. It's a really hard director to try and pin down. I think he saw himself as more of a commercial director, and so he would kind of go where the audience was or go where the market drove him at the time. So it means his films are really eclectic, really individual, and really kind of jump all over the place in terms of genre. 88 Films have actually represented his movies really well. Certainly at the point when we got up to the first kind of 26 releases from Shaw's, 7 of them were Ho Meng-Hua movies, so you may already have seen some of his films. He did 2 Black Magic movies, Black Magic Part 1 and Part 2. He did The Dragon Missile. He did The Flying Guillotine and its sort of sequel, Vengeful Beauty. He did, of course, The Mighty Peking Man, and he did Oily Maniac. Worth pointing out that Oily Maniac and The Mighty Peking Man represent 2 in the 3 trilogy arc of Danny Lee madness. Danny Lee stars in The Mighty Peking Man, also stars in The Oily Maniac and Inframan. Apparently at Shaw's, if you were going to be doing something crazy, you would call Danny Lee. He was in all of their strangest, kind of more unusual genre entries, and he's great in all 3 of them. He's particularly great in The Mighty Peking Man. Most people might well know Danny Lee from The Killer. He's in John Woo's The Killer alongside Chow Yun-fat. Pretty great actor, and great seeing him here. But the movie really is going to be a kind of Marmite experience. You're either going to love it or hate it. I particularly love it. I think I don't know Arrow's exact thoughts on why it's on there, but I suspect it's probably because they've long championed kaiju movies. A lot of the people who worked on the special effects for Mighty Peking Man also worked in the Daimajin series, and a few of them worked even back as far as the original Godzilla movie from 1954. So a lot of the special effects hold up really well for a 1970s movie. There's a lot of rear projection, there's a lot of suits, there's a lot of sets being destroyed by a man in a big monkey suit. All that is good fun for me. If you like kaiju movies, there's a lot to love here. And certainly, like I say, the special effects are pretty wonderful. They still largely hold up, or so they're comparable to the Japanese movies of the same sort of era. And principally were worked on by 3 guys that they brought in from Japan. So Sadamasa Arakawa, who worked as the FX supervisor. We got Kaizo Murasi, who made the suit, also ended up acting in the suit, though that wasn't the original plan, and also went on to edit some of the sequences for the films. And we got Koichi Kawakita. All 3 of those men came across from Japan to work on the movie for Shaw's, which was shot in India, and like I say, directed by the wonderful Ho Meng-Hua. So we mentioned Danny Lee is in here. The other cast is rounded out by a newcomer, Evelyn Kraft, who'd been holidaying on Hong Kong. I think she was originally from Switzerland, and was spotted by the film's producers, asked if she wanted to be in the movie, and does a pretty incredible job. She does a lot of her own stunts here, including some pretty bizarre, possible drugged up animal interactions where she dances with a cheetah at one stage and gets very, very close to tigers. Pretty risky, all in all. There's a good tiger wrestling sequence, which she doesn't do, but I certainly wouldn't. Danny Lee himself also gets pretty close to sort of some borderline tiger wrestling. I don't know if they doped the animals up. Don't know what the story is there, but it looks pretty pretty dicey. I actually found that kind of more dramatically engaging than some of the other stuff in the movie, just by its sheer unusualness to see. Particularly, don't think I'll ever forget seeing Evelyn Craft doing a dance sequence with a leopard. You're not going to see that anywhere else. On the villain side, we get the wonderful Ho Feng, who we just spoke about in Boxer from Shangtung, and he is here in full villainous effect. He's definitely our big bad, and the cast rounded out by Norman Chu, who's got not a huge part in the movie, doesn't stick around for that long, no spoilers intended, but it's great seeing him back. You may have recently seen him in Eureka's release of Duel to the Death. He's a wonderful actor. I know him most for the Bastard Swordsman films, but he's in so many Shaw Brothers movies of this era, a lot of the Lau Kar-Leung movies and Chang-Chi movies. He seemed to just work for pretty much everybody. So yeah, great seeing him here. Although he isn't around in the movie for that long, it's great to see him when he is. So I think overall, if you've seen King Kong, you will know pretty much the narrative of this. Expedition goes into the wild to try and encounter this giant monstrous man, possible monkey, the mighty Peking Man of the title. Find him, manage to take him back to civilization, hastily try and produce some form of live show to try and capitalise on the creature's appeal and rake in the cash, and it all predictably goes horribly wrong and ends up with the monster ultimately kind of meeting his demise at the hands of a villainous man. But it's really well handled here. I think Quentin Tarantino's long been a champion of this movie. Indeed, his Rolling Thunder company put out this film in the States quite early on, and he's championed the movie for a long time. I think kind of cites it as being emotionally impactful, and certainly you do kind of feel the beats. I think for me, the strength really comes from just kind of seeing this era of Hong Kong production and seeing them pull out some kind of special effects tricks that we didn't see in that many other ones of their movies of the same sort of type. They did build some models, but not really to this sort of scale, and the model work is pretty impressive. But for me, really the main huge selling point for this is the extra features that Arrow have put together for it. It's a wonderful selection of content, so it kind of works really, really well amongst the set as not just contextualizing this movie, speaking a lot about the career of Ho Meng-Hua as a whole, and also really diving in with some really unexpected little treats. So extras wise, we get a full commentary on this by Travis Crawford, who I think was a former film festival programmer and film historian, and so he speaks a lot about the cast that are in it, what else they have been seen in, what their career trajectories were like. Pretty deep dive on all the main players involved. We also get a wonderful interview, newly created interview with the suit builder, with Kaizo Murase, which runs for about 19 minutes, and he's a treat. He's really, really kind of very entertaining, remembers his time on the movie very well, and speaks about it pretty passionately. He's really engaging. We dive once more into the incredible archives of Frédéric Ambrosine, who gives us an interview with Ho Meng-Hua. It filmed in, I think, 2003. Runs for about 24 minutes and works really as a full career retrospective. So he speaks about a lot of his movies, not just this one, and that is a joy. Ho Meng-Hua seems like a really incredibly nice guy. He's really, really engaging. He's really, really passionate when he's speaking about the things that he can remember. He's an older gentleman at the time that they meet him, but he's wonderful. His recollections are fantastic. He's really good-natured, really cheery. They ask him some great questions and he gives amazing answers. Really, he's one of the crowning highlights of the disc was really kind of getting a chance to spend 24 minutes with him reminiscing. It's wonderful. He's an absolute star. We also get an interview with the main villain, with Ho Feng, who speaks a lot about how much of an incredibly nice guy Ho Meng-Hua was, and how much really this film was kind of, for the time, managed to pull out some pretty spectacular stuff. You can tell he's still pretty proud of it, and pretty proud of what they were able to achieve. It took quite a long time for them to film because the amount of special effects are on there. But yeah, great. Those two interviews work together wonderfully. So you get half an hour of interviews from Frédéric Ambrosine's archives. We also get a treat from Kaizo Murase's own personal archive, which is a VHS transfer of the Super 8 footage that he filmed when he was working on the movie. That's amazing. It works as a 30-minute time capsule of Hong Kong in the 1970s. So you get to see him arriving in the city, travelling through to Shaw Brothers studio. You get to see the Shaw Brothers backlot. You get to see them actually kind of working on the models for the movie, and you kind of get to see some of his days off where he's kind of hanging out around Hong Kong. You can see the harbour looking very much like the harbour that you see in Enter the Dragon. It's kind of great, just teeming with life in a way that it's less so now. It's a lot kind of more developed, and there's a lot less of that type of environment now in the harbour in Hong Kong. So it's kind of great, yeah, like as a time capsule piece, it's wonderful to see. We also get a full SD transfer of the film, so you can see it the way that many of us would have seen it 20 years ago on ropey VHS transfers, and it's I think marginally different cut with a few extra trims here and there, but I couldn't notice too much of a difference. The running times are virtually the same, but it's just nice having a really low res version and to kind of go back and remind us of how wonderful the HD remasters of these movies are looking. And it looks spectacular, absolutely glorious. The SD transfer is only in English audio. For the main HD remaster, we get Mandarin and English audio options. We also get alternative opening credits and TV credits for the US release when the movie was released as Goliathon. We get 7 different trailers, and we get the largest image gallery so far on one of these Arrow discs. We get 90 stills, which includes a whole bunch of German press materials that they've managed to kind of get hold of. Really wonderful to see. So kind of got a great package, really one of the most in-depth that we've seen for an individual movie so far. I'm fine with this being on the set. I know an awful lot of people are still grumbling about the fact that it's not a different title, but a lot of people don't have that 88 films release, and if you're buying the set as a first introduction to Shaws, it does give you a little bit more of an insight into what the studio does other than just martial arts movies, because most of the other movies that are on here are all really in the martial arts kind of vein. They're not even really wuxia movies. They're all kind of pretty much from their kung fu kind of school of films, of which certainly they've made the vast majority of the Shaw's movies from that era were that type of film. So it's nice getting kind of one out of left field, kind of one crazy entry, and the Mighty Peking Man certainly meets that. Would I have preferred Super Inframan? Yeah, maybe. But I still think for the extras they put together for this, it's wonderful to see. And it's really great that they've highlighted Ho Meng-Hua, because he was a truly fantastic director. And if you liked his movie here, if you enjoy Mighty Peking Man, there's so much more that you can dive into. There's the ones that I mentioned from the 88 back catalogue. You can also track down his Monkey series of movies. He made The Monkey Goes West and then 3 sequels, all fantastic, all with kind of pretty great special effects in them. Again, for the time, he was a wonderful director, really, really great at working with actors, and yeah, highly recommended. So I think for me, although this is the weakest of the 12 movies on here, it's not really a weak entry. I still love the film, and I love seeing the extras they put together for it. So for me, 2 thumbs. Way up for the craziness of the Mighty Peking Man. And I gotta mention, it has one of the funkiest songs I've heard in a long time in it. We get a very brief little kind of entry of the Soul City Orchestra's The Jam, which I will see if we can get away with playing a few seconds of here, because goddamn, it's funky. Check back in again tomorrow. I'll see you on the next video. Hopefully we'll get another one out tomorrow, and thank you for watching. Take care.